My wife mocked my depression while I was suicidal, so I got therapy, got rich, and left without a word. Now she asks people why I changed. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and for years I wore a smile that didn't match how I felt inside. I was the kind of man who held it together on the outside. Steady job, decent income, polite to neighbors, never raised my voice. People thought I had it all under control. My wife Emily used to call me the quiet one in our friend group, like it was some quirky personality trait. But it wasn't quiet confidence. It was quiet collapse. The truth is I've been depressed for most of my adult life. Not the kind of sad you shake off after a bad day. The kind that makes getting out of bed feel like climbing a mountain. The kind that whispers you're worthless in the middle of the night and makes you believe it by morning. I didn't talk about it. Not because I didn't want to, but because every time I hinted at my pain, Emily either ignored it or mocked it. I remember once telling her, "I've just been feeling off lately. Heavy." She didn't even look up from her phone. "Probably just need more sleep." Or a hobby. "You overthink everything." That was her version of empathy. Passive dismissal wrapped in sarcasm. Sometimes she'd say things like, "God, men are so dramatic when they're emotional. You'd think you were dying just because you had a bad day." So I stopped mentioning it. I let the silence swell. Most days after work, I'd sit in the car for 15 minutes before going inside. Just sitting there, staring at the steering wheel, trying to remember how to pretend. I'd wipe away the tears, fix my face in the rearview mirror, and walk through the front door like nothing was wrong. But one night, I couldn't hold it in. I said quietly, "I don't know how much longer I can do this." And when I told her I'd been having suicidal thoughts, she blinked, paused, and then let out a laugh like I had just told a joke. The night I finally said it out loud, "I'm not okay. I wasn't looking for a grand gesture." I wasn't expecting her to hold me or say all the right things. I just wanted to be heard. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and see how hard I was fighting to stay above water. We were sitting on the couch. The TV was on, but I hadn't heard a word of it. My hands were shaking. My chest felt like it was being crushed. And I said, "I think I'm falling apart." She didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared at me like I'd interrupted her commercial break. Then she sighed and muttered, "Don't be dramatic. You're just lazy." Lazy. That word hit harder than I expected. It wasn't the first time she'd used it, but this time it stuck. Like my exhaustion wasn't real. Like my sadness was just a bad personality trait. I tried again, my voice cracking as I said, "I think I need help," she smirked. Not out of concern. Out of mockery. "Maybe you should grow a pair," she said. And then she laughed. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, frozen, listening to the hum of the television and the sound of my own heart sinking into something cold and final. That night, I walked past our bedroom and into the guest room. Not because we'd fought, but because something in me had broken in a way that couldn't be glued back together. I lay on that stiff mattress staring at the ceiling, realizing that the woman I loved saw my pain as a punchline. She mocked the very thing that nearly killed me, and in that moment I knew I was utterly alone in my own marriage. The next morning, she poured coffee like it was just another Tuesday. Humming, scrolling her phone, asking what I wanted for dinner. Like the night before, the worst night of my life, had been a bad dream only I remembered. I waited for her to say something. A question. An apology. Anything. But she didn't. When I finally said, "About last night, do you even realize how cruel that was?" She looked annoyed. Not guilty. Not confused. Just irritated. "Oh my God, are we still on that?" she said. Then came the kicker. "You're being too sensitive." I was joking. She turned my pain into a punchline, and now the punchline was my fault for not getting it. And that's when it started. Subtle, slow poison. She began talking about me to others. Quietly at first, then louder. I overheard her on the phone with a friend. "He's been acting weird lately, so moody. I think something's wrong with him mentally." A few days later, a friend canceled on me for drinks. Another stopped replying to texts. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then my own sister called and said, "Emily mentioned you've been acting unstable. Do you need help?" That word again. Unstable. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't broken anything. I just finally asked to be seen, and suddenly I was the villain in a story I didn't even know she was telling. She kept repeating, "You're ruining our marriage. You're pushing me away." And maybe I started to believe her. Maybe I really was too broken, too soft, too needy. Maybe love was only for the strong, whatever that meant. I used to think depression was the hardest part. But it turns out, being punished for speaking up hurt even more. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I was unraveling, slowly, quietly, but no one could see it. Or maybe they didn't want to. So I did something I had never done before. I found a therapist. Secretly, I told Emily I was working overtime. Some nights I said I was at the gym. But really, I was sitting in a quiet, plant-filled office across from a woman named Dana, who asked me one question that shattered me. When was the last time you felt safe? I opened my mouth to answer and couldn't, because I didn't remember. Not with Emily. Not even before her. For weeks, I spilled everything. The car cries. The nights in the guest room. The way her laughter still echoed in my chest like an aftershock. I thought Dana would label me dramatic, weak, broken. But instead, she just said, "You're not crazy. You're just unloved in your own home." That sentence did something I can't fully explain. It didn't fix me. But it gave me permission to start fixing myself. I started journaling every day. Not deep poetic stuff. Just truth. I wrote what I was too scared to say out loud. I began setting tiny goals. Wake up before 7, drink water, apply for one job. I even started sending out resumes to cities I'd never been to. Nashville, Denver, Portland. I didn't have a plan. Just the first spark of a dream. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped. I felt like I was quietly building an exit. Emily still thought I was dragging myself through life like before. She had no idea I was learning how to crawl out from under her shadow. Therapy was helping. Not in some magical overnight way, but in small, powerful shifts. I stood straighter, spoke clearer, paused before apologizing for things that weren't my fault. I even started working out again, not to impress anyone, but to remember what it felt like to have ownership over my body. To feel strong, even for 30 minutes a day, Emily noticed. And she didn't like it. One night, I casually mentioned I was thinking of starting a side business, freelance design work, something creative, something mine. She looked up from her phone and scoffed. "Oh, great. Another midlife crisis idea. Should I be worried you're buying a motorcycle next?" I laughed politely, but inside, something twisted. It wasn't just dismissal. It was fear, cloaked in sarcasm. The more I grew, the colder she got. When I stopped oversharing, she accused me of being secretive. When I started dressing better, she said, "Who are you trying to impress?" When I said I might travel for a workshop, she rolled her eyes and muttered, "What's the point? You'll give up on it like everything else." I realized then, she only respected the version of me who needed her. The quiet man. The emotionally exhausted man. The one who asked permission for everything and apologized for having dreams, but now that I was reclaiming pieces of myself, she wasn't worried about me. She was worried about losing her control. Emily didn't want a partner. She wanted a mirror that reflected her superiority. And I had stopped reflecting anything she recognized. It happened by accident. I wasn't snooping, not really. I was looking for a receipt she said she'd left on the kitchen counter. Her phone was sitting there, unlocked, buzzing with a new message. I didn't mean to look. But then I saw his name, Liam, work. At first I brushed it off. She'd mentioned Liam before. Said he was just the guy who brings donuts to meetings. But curiosity won, and I tapped the thread. What I read didn't feel like donuts and meetings. Wish I had someone like you at home. You're the only one who listens. And the one that hit hardest. Talking to you is the best part of my day. They weren't sexting. There were no naked pictures, no hotel plans. But the intimacy? It was loud. And it was everything she made me feel ashamed for wanting. I kept scrolling, heart pounding. Voice notes. Inside jokes? Little smiley faces she hadn't sent me in years. And the worst part? There it was in writing. I can't talk to my husband about anything deep. He shuts down. Projection at its finest. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I closed the app. Placed the phone back on the counter. And for the rest of the day, I smiled like I hadn't just swallowed glass, because now I had something solid. Something undeniable. Not just a feeling. Not just an ache I couldn't name. Proof. Proof that while I was begging her to see me, she was pouring her soul into someone else's inbox. Proof that while I was rebuilding from rock bottom, she was laying bricks in someone else's emotional house. But I didn't rage. I didn't speak. I just started watching, waiting, letting her dig her own grave one text at a time. Finding those texts didn't break me, it focused me. If therapy had cracked the window open, this gave me the strength to pry it wide and start climbing out. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't even let her see me blink differently. Instead, I got quiet in a new way. Strategic. I poured myself into freelancing. I started small, designing social media graphics for local businesses, doing copy for Etsy shops. I watched YouTube tutorials at night with headphones in, pretending I was falling asleep to podcasts. I learned about e-commerce, email funnels, and client retention while Emily watched TV in the other room, thinking I was just wasting time on the internet. Every dollar I made went into a separate account. Not hidden, buried. New email, new bank, no digital trail. This was no longer about healing. It was about escaping. I found mentors in online communities, people who didn't know me but believed in me. They offered feedback, encouragement, opportunities. Strangers on the internet saw more value in me than the woman I shared a bed with. 6 months in, I was making more money from my freelance work than I did at my full-time job. And the best part? Emily had no clue. To her, I was still the same pathetic man clinging to therapy and false hope. She mocked me for journaling. Mocked me for reading books. Mocked me for drinking herbal tea instead of beer. But what she didn't realize was, I wasn't spiraling anymore. I was scaffolding a brand new life behind her back. The version of me she knew was fading. And I had no intention of letting her meet the man I was becoming. I wasn't supposed to be home that night. I'd told Emily I was staying late at work, but a last-minute client canceled, and I figured I'd surprise her with dinner. Something simple, takeout and a bottle of wine. It was stupid looking back. I don't know what part of me still hoped for a flicker of warmth. As I stepped into the house, I heard laughter, high-pitched, careless. I paused in the hallway. The living room lights were low, candles lit, glasses clinking. Emily was having one of her girls' nights. 3 of her friends sat on our couch, wine in hand, while she played hostess like nothing in our life was broken. Then I heard my name. She was mid-story, already laughing. "He's in therapy now," she snorted. "Says he's finding himself." The women howled. "God," one of them said. "He's lucky you haven't left him." Then came the dagger. Someone asked, "Aren't you scared he might just leave one day?" Emily didn't miss a beat. "Please," she scoffed. "Where would he even go?" They laughed again. Not because it was funny, because they believed her. I didn't say a word. Didn't step into the room. I just stood there watching my reflection in the dark hallway mirror. And I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, not even betrayal. Just a dull, hollow quiet, like I had finally flatlined emotionally. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream into a pillow. I went back to the car, sat in the driver's seat, and stared out at the streetlights, wondering how long I'd been dead inside without realizing it. I used to pray for this marriage. But standing outside my own home, invisible and humiliated, I knew this was the rock bottom. Not when I wanted to die, but when I realized I no longer felt anything at all. A month after that night, everything clicked into place. My business had hit its first 6-figure milestone. Not in theory, real money, real clients, real momentum. I had enough saved to clear my credit cards, break the lease, and start over somewhere Emily had never even visited. I chose a small city 3 hours away. Quiet, clean, anonymous, perfect. I didn't tell a soul. I didn't give her a warning. I found a 1-bedroom apartment with hardwood floors and too much sunlight. I signed the lease online, hired movers to come on a Wednesday afternoon while I knew she'd be at work. I packed everything I truly owned, the things that were mine before we became us, and left behind the rest. Her furniture, her photos, her curated little life. On the kitchen table, I left 2 things: a manila envelope containing the divorce papers, and a handwritten letter that simply said, "I was never yours. I was just someone you kept small. No rage, no screaming match. No messy breakdown for her to twist into gossip. Just silence. The same silence she once mocked me for. The same silence she called weakness. Now it was my strength. My final word, she came home to an empty house. No husband. No shoes by the door. No toothbrush next to hers. Just the echo of a life she never bothered to cherish. I turned off my phone that night, but not before watching her name flash across the screen. 13 missed calls in a row. I didn't answer. Not a single one, because this wasn't revenge. It was liberation, and I wasn't going to explain my freedom to the one who spent years trying to cage me. The aftermath came fast and loud. Within days, Emily spun her version of the story. She told our mutual friends I had blindsided her, that I'd lost my mind, that therapy had turned me into some kind of selfish narcissist on a midlife crisis. She cried to them, told them I'd abandoned her out of nowhere, painted herself as the heartbroken wife left in the ruins of a perfect marriage, and for a while, they believed her. I saw the posts, the vague quotes, the "some people change for the worse" captions, the teary Instagram stories. She was playing the victim like she'd rehearsed it, and maybe she had, but then something unexpected happened. People started reaching out, quietly, privately, old friends who had drifted, coworkers I hadn't spoken to in months. One by one, they messaged me. "Hey, I didn't know what you were going through. I should have checked in more. I'm sorry I believed her side without asking yours." And then came the real surprise. Stories. Stories about how Emily had done this before. Manipulated people. Dismissed emotions. Humiliated partners in front of others. Turns out I wasn't the first man she had slowly dismantled. I was just the first to get out before I was nothing. I didn't respond to most of the messages. Not out of spite, just peace. I was done living in reaction to her chaos. I had a new place. A new life. I woke up without dread, without walking on eggshells, without pretending to be smaller just to survive. Emily's panic echoed through social circles like a storm she couldn't control. And for once, I didn't try to explain the rain. I just stood in the calm, knowing I had finally stepped into the sun. A mutual friend told me recently over coffee that Emily still asks about me. She's confused, apparently. Keeps saying things like, "I don't know what happened to him. He just changed." She tells it like I flipped a switch. Like I woke up one morning and decided to become cold, distant, selfish. But I didn't change overnight. I changed the day she rolled her eyes when I said I was hurting. I changed every time she mocked me in front of her friends. I changed when she laughed as I told her I was suicidal, when she called me lazy instead of lonely, when she whispered her soul to another man but left mine to rot in silence. I changed because I had to. Because staying meant disappearing. Because loving her meant betraying myself. She tells people I became someone else. But the truth is, I finally became me, the me who didn't flinch at her sarcasm. The me who knew that asking for help wasn't weakness. The me who built something strong from everything she tried to shatter. I bet she misses the man who begged for affection. The one who asked for permission to feel. But quiet men don't stay quiet forever. Eventually, we get tired of whispering through the pain. Eventually, the silence becomes a decision, not a symptom. So yes, I changed. Not to hurt her, but to save myself, and if she still doesn't understand why. It's because she never truly knew me in the first place. It's strange how quiet freedom sounds. No alarms going off in your chest. No rehearsing your words before speaking. No wondering if today will be the day you're mocked for needing love. Today, I wake up in a place that smells like fresh coffee and peace. I run a business helping men like me, men who were taught that being emotional was weakness, that asking for help made them lesser. I coach them, write for them, speak for them, until they can do it for themselves. It's not just work. It's healing. I travel now. I see places I never thought I'd get to. I fill notebooks with ideas instead of apologies. And I love again, not cautiously, not halfway. I love a woman who doesn't flinch when I cry, who calls my softness sacred, who listens without trying to fix me. She doesn't complete me. She just lets me be whole. And Emily? She's still in that house. Still loud. Still mean. Still throwing pity parties for a crowd that's slowly walking out the door. She tells people I changed. She's right. She just never imagined that the quiet man she used to mock would become someone untouchable. She doesn't understand how she lost me. But the truth is, she never had me. She only had control. And when that left, so did I. I never wanted revenge. I didn't need to scream or shame or expose her, because the real revenge was watching her wonder. How the man who once begged for scraps became someone she can't even reach. Silence was once my prison. Now it's my power, and I've never felt louder than I do. In peace.